"Phoebe, no, don't let go of my hand." Franklin Vega called out as his 5-year-old daughter bolted toward the playground slide. She didn't slow down. Her curls bounced behind her, her giggle echoing through the park. He chased after her, his worn boots thudding against the path. The sun was starting to dip, casting a soft orange hue over the cracked benches and rusted monkey bars. It was the only park close enough to his apartment that didn't charge admission, and even if it did, he couldn't afford it. Franklin reached Phoebe just as she reached the top of the slide, her tiny fingers gripping the chipped metal. "Slow down, kiddo. You're gonna give me a heart attack." She wrinkled her nose. "You're too young for a heart attack," says the 5-year-old, he muttered, shaking his head with a smile as he helped her sit properly. "All right, go ahead. Just be careful." She whooshed down with a squeal and Franklin exhaled, sitting down on the edge of the sandbox. His knees ached from a day of hauling crates at the dock and his shirt clung to his back with sweat. He checked his watch 15 minutes before the dollar store closed. He needed milk, a loaf of bread, and something for dinner. Again, just as he stood up, he heard it, a yelp. Then a sharp hiss of pain. He turned and saw a woman on the sidewalk near the edge of the park. One heel snapped and an ugly scrape down her knee. She looked out of place, high heels, fitted pencil skirt, sleek hair that screamed money. Not the usual crowd in this part of town. Franklin didn't think. He jogged over immediately. "You okay?" he asked, crouching beside her. She was trying to hold her skirt down with one hand and press the scrape with the other. "Yeah, I just tripped over that stupid curb. Ugh." He glanced at the broken heel nearby and winced. "That curb's a menace. Hold up, don't press it too hard. You're bleeding." "I noticed," she muttered. Without hesitation, he pulled his flannel overshirt off, yanked out a clean napkin from his back pocket, and gently dabbed the blood. "This might sting." She watched him, surprised. "You carry napkins around, single dad," he said simply. "Napkins, snacks, glitter in my truck. Comes with the job." Her lips curved, and for the first time she relaxed. "Well, thank you. I didn't expect a full rescue team down here. I'm not a team, just a guy trying to keep his kid from eating sand." He smiled, then looked at her knee. "You need something better than a napkin. I've got a little first aid kit in the truck." She blinked. "You do?" "Yeah." Phoebe's not exactly careful with her knees either. "Come on, can you walk?" Her ankle wobbled as she stood. He caught her waist instinctively. "Okay, maybe not," she murmured. "All right, truck's just over there. Mind if I help you hobble?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Thanks, I'm a Jessa." "Jessa Vaughn." Franklin Vega. "That's my daughter over there, the one turning the slide into a water park with her juice box." Jessa allowed him to guide her toward the old, beaten-up red pickup parked near the playground. Phoebe spotted them and came running. "Daddy." "Who's she?" "Phoebe, this is Jessa. She had a little accident. Can you grab the little white box from under the seat?" Phoebe beamed at the chance to help and scrambled into the truck. Jessa sat carefully on the edge of the passenger seat, watching father and daughter with curious eyes. "She's adorable," she said softly. "She's my whole world," Franklin replied as he opened the kit and started cleaning her scrape with more care than she expected. "You're lucky, it's just a surface wound, no stitches." "Lucky's not how I'd describe today," she muttered, shaking her head. "Missed my car service, tripped on a curb, and I'm supposed to be at a dinner across town in 30 minutes. He noticed the diamond-studded watch on her wrist and the bag that definitely wasn't from any store around here. He didn't ask, he wasn't raised to pry. "I can give you a ride," he offered, surprising even himself. She looked at him like he'd just offered to fly her to Paris on that truck. He shrugged. "It's not fancy, but it runs. And you're not walking on that ankle. I don't want to take you away from your daughter. We're headed home anyway, and Phoebe's used to me giving strangers a ride when they're bleeding." He grinned, Jessa laughed, and it was real soft, unguarded. "All right," she said. "But only if Phoebe's okay with it." Phoebe gave an enthusiastic nod. "Can we stop for ice cream?" Franklin groaned. "You just had juice," I said, "please." Jessa looked between them, something warm tugging at her chest. She hadn't smiled like this in weeks. "Tell you what," Jessa said, reaching into her bag. "Ice cream's on me." Franklin opened his mouth to protest, but stopped when he saw her face, not pitying, not condescending, just kind and amused. "All right, Vaughn. But only if you let me drop you off after." They ended up at a corner shop with sticky tables and neon signs. Jessa, in her tailored suit and bandaged knee, looked wildly out of place. Still, she laughed when Phoebe dripped chocolate down her chin and handed Franklin a napkin like she was part of the family. When Franklin finally pulled up outside a luxury high-rise in the city, Jessa shifted uncomfortably. "This is me," she said, avoiding his eyes. He looked up at the building, then back at her. "Must be a pretty good job," she hesitated. "Yeah, I'm the CEO of Vaughn Enterprises." Franklin blinked. "Wait, like Vaughn Towers, Vaughn Tech, the same," he whistled low. "Guess that explains the purse," Jessa laughed. "Most people freak out when they find out. I'm not most people." "I noticed," she said, her voice soft now. Phoebe leaned forward from the back seat. "Will we see you again?" Franklin gave a small smile, but his eyes were on Jessa. "Only if your boss lady here wants to hang out with people who shop at dollar stores." Jessa looked between them. Her heart felt like it was doing flips. "I do," she said. "Actually, I'd really like that." Franklin's eyebrows lifted. "You sure?" "This isn't exactly your world." "I think I've had enough of my world today," she replied. "Maybe it's time I try something real." She opened the door, then paused. "Same time tomorrow, maybe? Dinner?" Franklin grinned. "You're asking me out. Technically, I'm offering to buy you groceries," she teased. "All right, CEO Vaughn. But if you're late, Phoebe gets to pick the movie." "Deal." As she disappeared into the glass doors, Franklin looked at Phoebe. "You think she's serious?" Phoebe nodded. "She likes you." He stared at the building for a long moment, then smiled to himself. "I think I like her too." Franklin adjusted his grip on the grocery bag as he balanced Phoebe on his hip. The automatic doors of the supermarket struggled to open all the way, groaning as if as tired as he felt. Phoebe tugged at the collar of his shirt. "Are we getting cereal with marshmallows this time?" "That depends," he said, stepping into the fluorescent-lit aisle. "Did you brush your teeth this morning without me asking?" "I brushed twice, even the tongue," he laughed, lowering her into the cart. "All right, 1 box." Phoebe raised both arms like she'd won a prize. "Yes." As they turned into the cereal aisle, Franklin's phone buzzed. He pulled it from his pocket, frowning at the unfamiliar number. He hesitated, then answered. "Franklin Vega. Thought you might screen my call," came Jessa's voice, cool, confident, but edged with something gentler now. "I don't exactly get many calls from skyscrapers," he said. "Then I'll try not to disappoint." She paused, then added, "I was wondering if you and Phoebe are free tonight. There's this farmer's market near the river. They've got live music and way too many food trucks." He looked down at his daughter, who was now piling boxes of colorful cereal into the cart like a raccoon stocking up for winter. "Let me guess," he said. "You're trying to bribe my child with kettle corn." "I heard it's the most effective form of negotiation," he grinned. "We'll meet you there, just don't wear heels this time." "I brought sneakers," she said. "And a Band-Aid, just in case you're out." That evening, the air buzzed with the sound of laughter, clinking cups, and the low hum of a jazz trio playing under strings of lights. Franklin held Phoebe's hand as they stepped onto the grass, her braids swinging as she pointed toward a booth selling something suspiciously sticky. He spotted Jessa near a lemonade stand, dressed down in jeans and a soft gray jacket. Her hair was looser tonight, falling around her face in soft waves. She waved when she saw them, lifting 2 paper cones of roasted almonds. "These are for trade," she said as they approached. "I give you almonds and you let me hang out with you both for the night." "I'll allow it," Phoebe said, grabbing a cone. Franklin shook his head. "You're lucky she's easy to win over." Jessa looked up at him. "What about you?" "I'm harder to impress," he said, though the smile tugging at his mouth betrayed him. They wandered through the rows of booths, the rhythm of the evening settling into something comfortable. Jessa crouched beside Phoebe to examine honey sticks, her laughter rising every time Phoebe asked if bees had jobs. Franklin watched her interact with his daughter so easily, as if she'd known her longer than a day. It wasn't just politeness. She listened, really listened. "You ever been down here before?" he asked as they stopped near a wood-fired pizza stand. "Not without an assistant and a calendar reminder," she said. "But tonight's different, no phone, just this." He raised an eyebrow. "You left your phone?" "I turned it off," she admitted. which is basically the same thing for someone like me. Impressive. Didn't think you corporate types could survive without it. Don't tell anyone, she said. It might ruin my reputation as a ruthless executive. Phoebe tugged on Franklin's sleeve. Can we sit now? My feet are tired. They found a spot near the water under a tree lit with hanging lanterns. Jessa spread out a blanket she'd brought, and Phoebe curled up beside her with a paper plate of pizza. You planned this? Franklin asked. I like to be prepared, she said, brushing a leaf from the blanket. Also, I wasn't sure if you'd have one. He studied her carefully. There was nothing pretentious about her now. She wasn't performing or trying to impress anyone. She was just here. Why us? He asked. She didn't look away. Because it's been a long time since anyone looked at me and didn't see a legacy or a headline. You didn't even blink when I told you who I was. I blinked, he said, but I didn't run. That's what I mean. You didn't ask what I could offer you. You offered me a ride in a truck with juice-stained seats, he chuckled. Sounds romantic when you say it like that. She looked at him, more serious now. It was. Phoebe had dozed off against her side, her little hand still holding a crust of pizza. Jessa gently brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. She's lucky, Jessa said softly, Franklin's voice lowered. I'm the lucky one. They sat like that for a while, the music drifting from across the lawn, the lights catching in Jessa's hair. Eventually, she broke the silence. I've got a charity auction tomorrow night. I usually go alone, shake hands, smile for photos, then leave. He looked at her. And I'd like you to come, both of you, he hesitated. I don't own anything that passes for formal. You don't need to, she said. I'll take care of it. I don't like being a project. You're not, she said quickly. I just want to show you a piece of my world, the way you showed me yours. He glanced at Phoebe, sleeping peacefully beside this woman who seemed to fit into their lives like she'd always been part of it. He nodded, all right, but don't expect me to eat anything I can't pronounce, she smiled. Deal. As they stood and gathered their things, Jessa reached for his hand, not forcefully, not for show, just a quiet, natural gesture, and he let her. They walked back toward the parking lot, a little trio under the stars. The auction was held in the ballroom of the Langford Grand, a towering glass and marble hotel Franklin had only ever seen from the highway. The kind of place with doormen in gloves and chandeliers like frozen waterfalls. He stepped through the lobby's revolving door with Phoebe's hand in his. She wore a soft blue tulle dress Jessa had sent earlier that afternoon, complete with tiny silver shoes and a matching clip in her hair. He hadn't wanted to accept it, hadn't wanted to feel like a charity case, but Phoebe's face when she opened the box had decided it for him. Franklin tugged at the collar of the dark gray suit he'd rented with Jessa's help. It was tailored to fit, but it still felt like borrowed skin. He adjusted the cuffs again, more out of nerves than necessity. Phoebe looked up at him. Is this place for princesses? He glanced around the gilded lobby. Feels like it. Then you're the king, she said easily, skipping ahead of him toward the entrance with childish confidence. The double doors opened into a room awash in gold lighting and soft music. Round tables glittered with crystal and silver, and waiters in black jackets moved like clockwork. Franklin's boots had never touched a carpet like this. He felt the weight of every eye that passed over him. Then he saw her. Jessa stood near the far end of the room, speaking with an older woman in a velvet gown. Her dress was a deep navy, fitted and elegant, but it wasn't the fabric or the cut that caught him, it was the way she looked the moment she spotted him. She excused herself, her eyes never leaving his. You made it, he nodded, steadying his grip on Phoebe's hand. We wouldn't miss it. She looked down at Phoebe and knelt slightly. You look like a star, Phoebe twirled. Daddy says I shine even without fancy lights, Jessa laughed. He's right. She straightened and turned to Franklin. You clean up well. I feel like I should be holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres, he muttered. You're not the only one here who doesn't belong, she said quietly, her tone sincere. Most of these people only know how to talk about stock buybacks and ski homes. You've got something they don't, he tilted his head. And what's that? Jessa glanced at Phoebe, then back to him. Someone worth showing up for. Before he could answer, a man in a crisp tuxedo approached them. Jessa, the board would like a moment. They're at table 3. She hesitated, then looked at Franklin. Can I leave you both for a minute? We'll be fine, he said. Go to your CEO thing. She gave Phoebe a quick wink and turned away, heels clicking on the polished floor. Franklin led Phoebe to a table near the back, the one with their names written on simple white cards. He pulled out a chair for her and sat down, scanning the crowd. It was a different world, the kind where conversations were measured, smiles were currency, and everyone seemed to know how to hold a wine glass like it was part of them. A woman with a sleek bun and a diamond necklace leaned in from a nearby table. "Are you one of the new partners?" Franklin blinked. "No, I'm a friend of Jessa's." "Ah," she smiled, though it lacked warmth. "I didn't know she was bringing guests this year." She probably figured it was time to shake things up. The woman turned away without another word. Phoebe leaned toward him. "That lady had too much perfume." "You're not wrong," he muttered. Jessa returned a few minutes later, her smile tighter now. "Sorry about that. Everything all right?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "The board's nervous about a new merger. They think I'm being too aggressive." "Are you?" "Probably. But aggressive is how I got here." He studied her for a moment. "You ever wish you hadn't?" Jessa's gaze drifted across the room, where clusters of donors sipped champagne and laughed behind manicured masks. "Sometimes I wonder what I missed while I was chasing it." Franklin didn't press her. Instead, he reached for the glass of water in front of him and handed Phoebe a breadstick from a silver basket. Later in the evening, the auction began. Items flashed across the screen behind the stage: private jets for a weekend, dinner with retired celebrities, diamond watches. "I feel like I'm on a different planet," he whispered. Jessa leaned closer. "You're not. You're just in a room full of people pretending they belong." He looked at her. "You don't pretend." "No," she said softly, "but I've gotten very good at being alone." His eyes didn't leave hers. "You don't have to be." The room applauded as a painting sold for an amount that made Franklin's stomach tighten. Jessa turned her chair slightly toward him. "I know this isn't your usual Friday night," she said. "No, usually it's frozen pizza and a cartoon about talking vegetables." "I'll try not to compete with that," she said, voice lighter now. He glanced at her again, then lowered his voice. "Jessa, why did you really invite us tonight?" Her expression changed, something vulnerable flickering beneath her polished calm. "Because I knew I'd walk into this room and feel like a stranger, and I didn't want to feel that way anymore." Silence settled between them like a shared secret. The auctioneer announced the final item: a private weekend at the Vaughn family estate in Provence, including full staff and chef. A few hands lifted casually. Then a bidding war broke out near the front of the room. Jessa seemed to fade at the mention of her family's name. Franklin noticed. "You all right?" she nodded. "That place doesn't mean what it used to." He didn't push. Instead, he reached for her hand under the table, not for show, not for comfort, just presence. The night wound down slowly. Waiters cleared plates, guests filtered toward the exits. Jessa stood and offered her hand to Phoebe. "Ready, star?" Phoebe yawned. "Will there be bedtime stories?" Franklin stood too. "She's usually asleep mid-sentence." Jessa smiled. "I'll take that as a challenge." They stepped out into the night, the city's lights stretching like sequins across the skyline. Franklin's truck was parked 2 blocks away. Valet had looked at him like he'd driven a spaceship. As they walked, Jessa slowed. "Franklin," he glanced at her. "I don't know what this is yet," she said, voice quiet. "But I want to find out." He nodded once. "Me too." And they kept walking hand in hand as the city buzzed around them, 2 worlds colliding, not with noise, but with something far more dangerous: hope. The rain started without warning. It wasn't a heavy downpour, just a soft, steady drizzle that coated the sidewalks in a silver sheen. Franklin pulled up to the curb in front of Jessa's building, wipers brushing back and forth in lazy arcs. Phoebe was asleep in the back seat, curled up in her booster with her head pressed against the window. Her tiny hand still clutched the beaded bracelet she'd made earlier that day at the community center, where Jessa had spent the afternoon helping Phoebe and a dozen other kids string charms and tie knots with patient, quiet focus. Franklin cut the engine, letting the silence settle around them. Jessa turned toward him, her voice low. "She had fun today." "She talked about it the whole drive over," he said. "She thinks you're secretly a craft wizard." "I'm not," Jessa replied, "but I'm good at pretending I know what I'm doing." He glanced at her. "You don't have to pretend around us." She didn't answer right away. Her eyes stayed on the windshield, watching the rain trace patterns on the glass. "Franklin, I've been thinking," she said finally. About how fast this is all moving. He braced himself, his fingers curling loosely around the steering wheel. If you need space, no, she said quickly. That's not it. I don't want distance, I want more. He turned to her fully now, his expression unreadable. I've spent years building everything around me to be untouchable, Jessa continued. I had private drivers because I didn't want to make conversation. I bought an apartment 50 floors up so no one could knock unexpectedly. I even stopped celebrating my birthday because it felt like an obligation instead of a joy. And now, he asked, she looked at him, eyes steady. Now I want to be surrounded. I want mess and noise and someone to knock on my door because they were already in the neighborhood with paint on their jeans and a bag of groceries. I want to wake up and have a reason not to check my inbox first. Franklin's throat tightened. That sounds a lot like a life. It does, she said. And I think I want to build it with you. He searched her face, every word settling in his chest like bricks forming something solid. I've never done this the right way, he admitted. Phoebe's mom left before she could walk. I've been playing both roles since. Everything I do for her. And I never thought I'd let anyone get close enough to change that. Jessa's voice softened. I don't want to change it, I just want to be part of it. He looked over his shoulder at his sleeping daughter. She already loves you. I love her too, Jessa said. I didn't know it could feel like that so quickly, but it does. Franklin turned back to her. This isn't just about her, is it? No, she whispered. It's you, I love you. The words didn't hit him like a wave. They landed like a key in a lock he hadn't realized was waiting to be opened. He reached across the center console and took her hand. I love you too. Jessa blinked, her breath catching. Really? He nodded. You've seen all the parts of me most people avoid, the tired, the broke, the uncertain, and you stayed. I didn't think someone like you would ever want someone like me. I don't want someone like you, she said. I want you. Outside, the rain picked up slightly, tapping against the roof like applause. I want to ask you something, Franklin said, but not here. Not in the truck, Jessa tilted her head. Then where? He looked at Phoebe, then back to her. Tomorrow, come by the park, the one where we met. She gave a small nod. I'll be there. He walked her to the building's entrance, umbrella shielding them both. At the door, she leaned in and kissed his cheek, deliberate, slow, and full of meaning. Good night, Franklin. Good night, Jessa. The park the next day was quiet, the air crisp from the recent rain. Franklin stood near the old slide, dressed in a navy button-down and jeans. Phoebe was busy arranging a line of dandelions on a nearby bench, her concentration fierce. Jessa approached, her steps slow, deliberate. He turned when he heard her. Right on time. I wasn't going to miss this, she said, eyeing the small picnic blanket he'd set up under the same tree they'd sat beneath that first day. I figured I'd keep it simple, Franklin said, suddenly nervous. Jessa folded her arms gently. What's going on? He gestured for her to sit. She did, and he joined her, pulling something from his jacket pocket, a small velvet pouch. I don't have a ring, he began. Not yet, but I have this. He opened the pouch and revealed a silver charm bracelet, delicate but meaningful. Each charm was different, a small truck, a book, a star, and one tiny heart engraved with a single word, us. Jessa's breath caught. Franklin, I can't give you a penthouse view. But I can give you Sunday mornings with pancakes, late-night grocery runs, and a daughter who'll probably ask you to braid her hair every other day. I can give you a life that's built from the ground up, messy and real and full of love. He looked into her eyes. Will you marry me? Jessa didn't hesitate. She nodded, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He reached for her and kissed her deeply, fully, like a man who'd stopped holding back. Phoebe ran over a moment later. Did she say yes? Jessa wiped her tears and smiled. She did. Phoebe threw her arms around both of them. Does this mean I get 2 bedtime stories every night now? Franklin laughed. It means a lot more than that, kiddo. That evening, they stood in the kitchen of Franklin's apartment, Jessa barefoot, Phoebe dancing to music from the radio as she stirred sauce in a plastic bowl. Franklin watched them, hand resting lightly on Jessa's back. It wasn't a penthouse, but it was home. And as the three of them sat down to dinner at the small kitchen table lit by a flickering candle Phoebe insisted on, Jessa reached across the table and took Franklin's hand. Their story had started with a scraped knee and a borrowed napkin. Now, it was a life. A family. A love she never saw coming but would never let go. The wedding wasn't grand. It wasn't held in a cathedral or a ballroom. There were no ice sculptures or orchestras. Instead, Franklin and Jessa stood barefoot in a sun-dappled garden behind the community center, surrounded by wildflowers and mismatched chairs borrowed from neighbors. A string quartet from the local high school played under a canvas tent, and Phoebe walked down the makeshift aisle tossing petals from a woven basket she'd insisted on decorating herself with glitter glue and stickers. Franklin wore a linen shirt and navy slacks. Jessa wore a simple ivory dress with a low back and tiny buttons that ran down to her waist. Her hair was threaded with pale blue ribbon, Phoebe's idea, meant to match her own flower crown. Everyone who mattered was there. The dock workers Franklin had hauled crates with for years. The single moms from the parent group at the center. Jessa's assistant, who had cried when she first heard about the engagement and had since become Phoebe's unofficial babysitter. Even the grumpy security guard from Jessa's building had shown up, unshaven and in a suit that didn't quite fit, holding a gift bag with a tag that read, "To the lady who finally smiled." When the officiant asked if they had prepared words, Franklin took Jessa's hands and looked at her like there was no one else in the world. Because to him there wasn't. "I never thought I'd get here," he said. "Not because I didn't want love, but because I didn't think I had anything left to give. You changed that. You saw every corner of my life, the hard, the messy, the parts I wasn't proud of, and you didn't flinch. You didn't fix me. You stood beside me, and somehow you made me want more than just surviving. You made me want joy. I didn't know I could have both, but standing here I do." Jessa blinked fast, gripping his hands tighter. "I spent years making sure no one could reach me," she said. "Because I thought if I kept everything controlled, nothing could fall apart. Then you came along with your crooked smile and your daughter's applesauce in your truck cup holders, and you didn't ask me to be anything but present. You didn't try to conquer me. You made space for me. I didn't fall in love with the idea of family. I fell in love with the way your voice calms Phoebe when she's scared, the way you listen without trying to solve. And the way you look at me like I've always belonged, even when I didn't believe it myself." They kissed before the officiant could even finish the final words. The crowd clapped, cackled, and someone shouted, "About time." Phoebe ran up and wrapped her arms around both of them. "Can we eat cake now?" she asked. "Absolutely," Jessa said, laughing through her tears. The reception was held under the same tent. There were mason jars filled with lemonade, a 3-tiered cake with lopsided frosting Phoebe had helped decorate, and a playlist that bounced between old soul records and children's movie soundtracks. Jessa danced with Franklin first, her bare feet on the grass, her head nestled just under his jaw. "Do you think she'll remember this?" Jessa asked. "She'll remember the cake more than the vows," Franklin replied. "But yeah, I think she'll remember." Later, Phoebe climbed onto Jessa's lap and fed her a frosting-covered piece of cake with her fingers. "You're really married now," she said, eyes wide. Jessa kissed her on the cheek. "I really am." "Does that mean I'm your daughter too?" Jessa's heart clenched. "If you'll have me," Phoebe nodded solemnly. "I already do." As the sun dipped low, Franklin pulled Jessa aside and handed her a small envelope. "What's this?" "Open it." Inside was a folded piece of paper. It was a deed, not to a mansion or a penthouse, but to a small fixer-upper cottage on the edge of town near the lake Phoebe loved. The house needed work, a lot of work. But the yard was big, the windows wide, and the porch wrapped around the front like an embrace. "You bought us a house," she whispered. "I bought us a future," Franklin said. "It's not move-in ready, but it's ours. And I want us to build it together." Jessa threw her arms around his neck and kissed him hard. "I've never had anything that was just mine," she said. "Now you've got 2 someones and a roof." They moved into the cottage 6 weeks later. Franklin fixed the leaky plumbing, and Jessa painted the kitchen cabinets a soft sage green. Every night, they sat on the porch swing with Phoebe between them, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars peek through the canopy of trees. Jessa stepped back from her full-time role at Vaughn Enterprises, transitioning into a mentorship position that allowed her to work with young female entrepreneurs. She launched a scholarship fund in Phoebe's name for girls from underserved neighborhoods, girls who, like Phoebe, loved glitter, and had dreams too big for their zip codes. Franklin started his own carpentry business, building custom furniture out of reclaimed wood. He got so many orders from Jessa's old colleagues that he had to hire 2 apprentices from the community center. One evening, while Franklin was installing bookshelves in the reading nook they'd added to the cottage, Phoebe ran in with a drawing. It was stick figures, 3 of them under a crooked roof. One had a ponytail, one had a hammer, one had a crown. "What's this?" Jessa asked, crouching beside her. "Our family," Phoebe said. "I gave Daddy a hammer because he's always fixing stuff." "You got a crown because you're the boss." "And what about you?" "I'm the heart," Phoebe said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Franklin looked up from the ladder and met Jessa's eyes. She crossed the room and kissed him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Thank you for giving me this life," she whispered. He kissed her forehead. "Thank you for letting me be part of it." They stood there, surrounded by sawdust and crayons, laughter echoing off the walls, and it wasn't just love anymore, it was home, it was forever.